Leda and the Swan by William Butler Yeats. A sudden blow, the great wings beating still, above the staggering girl, her thighs caressed. By the dark webs, her nape caught in his bill. He holds her helpless breast upon his breast. How can those terrified, vague fingers push the feathered glory from her loosening thighs? And how can body, laid in that white rush, but feel the strange heart beating where it lies? A shudder in the loins engenders there the broken wall, the burning roof and tower, and Agamemnon dead. Being so caught up, so mastered by the brute blood of the air, did she put on his knowledge with his power before the indifferent beak could let her drop? Throughout his tribute to an ancient Greek myth, William Butler Yeats masterfully imagines the scene of Leda's rape by Zeus, creating conflict between the characters and the events of the present versus those of the future. In the story, Zeus has transformed himself into a swan in order to copulate with the beautiful Leda. In Yeats's imagining, it is a rape, but it has also frequently been represented as a seduction, so it's interesting that he chose that particular interpretation of the story. Told in third-person omniscient, the narrator knows not only what Leda is feeling, indeed the narrator seems capable of empathizing with both victim and rapist, but also events that are far in the future. The first two stanzas swing quickly back and forth between violent and sensual imagery, creating tension and confusion. Compare "a sudden blow" with "her thighs caressed" in the next line. The rapist has her nape caught in his bill, an image of utter dominance, in order to hold her breast upon his breast, their face-to-face position reminiscent of lovers. The reader will probably respond, at least subconsciously, to the juxtaposition of these phrases, feeling uncomfortable with an obvious rape being depicted with terms typically reserved for a loving encounter. In the first stanza, Leda is unwilling and caught completely off guard. In the second, she submits to the swan's mighty power. The use of the word vague in the first line of the second stanza gives rise to the idea that Leda is unfocused in her effort to fight off her attacker, an idea which is then confirmed in the next line, as the feathered glory results in loosening thighs. It seems that within this stanza, Leda is realizing the identity of her attacker and lowering her defenses accordingly. She feels the strange heart beating where it lies. One might interpret her sudden acquiescence in one of two ways. Either she realizes the futility of attempting to resist a god and gives up, or she is intrigued and maybe even a little aroused against her will. At this point, she seems to be fighting herself rather than the swan. This internal struggle provides another source of tension within the poem. Typical of a sonnet, Leda and the Swan has 14 lines, but it combines the rhyme schemes of English sonnets, A-B, A-B, C-D, C-D, and Petrarchan sonnets, E-F-G, E-F-G. The last stanza is split into two distinct parts, the first of which is devoted to Zeus's action and its consequences. In a chilling paradox, the poem goes directly from his climax to a future scene of death and destruction. The second part is concerned with the question of whether or not the encounter allowed Leda to see the devastation to which it would eventually lead. Therein lies the resolution of tension. If she was gifted with this sight, then she saw the broken wall, the burning roof and tower, and Agamemnon dead. The burning of Troy and the murder of Agamemnon referenced in the poem are direct results of the children Leda gave birth to after the encounter. Helen, her daughter by Zeus, was the catalyst for the Trojan War, and Clytemnestra, the daughter her husband fathered on the same day as Leda's rape, murdered her own husband Agamemnon. Thus, Leda is both victim and perpetrator, both helpless and empowered. It's not precisely revenge, but she must find satisfaction in the fact that Zeus's deed against her will not go unpunished, that thousands of soldiers, a king, and a demigod, Achilles, will die because she was violated. From beginning to end, the poem shows a substantial shift of power, as Leda goes from overpowered victim to passive participant to a vessel for destructive forces. Through it all, she gains knowledge and power from that knowledge. Zeus, on the other hand, starts with all the power but gives it up through his rash act, as he is now helpless to stop the chain of events he has put in motion.